Hello everyone, on today's IRS Tax Refund update, we'll recap the latest numbers released from the IRS on the remaining tax return backlog, included amended returns. We'll also check in on the next round of tax refunds scheduled for release this week, as well as a new problem just reported in the last week impacting some of those still waiting on their tax refunds, and what to do if you're among those impacted. Meanwhile, new recommendations from the IRS if you filed more than 6 months ago, and Where's My Refund still does not indicate the IRS has received your tax return. Starting off with the next round of tax refunds scheduled for release this week. The next batch of direct deposit refunds will be transmitted and released by the IRS to banks on June 7th. Now, if you're part of this direct deposit refund batch, do allow up until June 12th to receive it in your account before initiating a payment trace. If you're expecting a paper check, the next round will be mailed out on June 9th, as confirmed by the refund status results seen here, but you will need to wait up until July 7th to receive that before initiating a payment trace. Now turning to those remaining unprocessed tax returns, with the backlog holding for a second consecutive week at 4 million unprocessed. We did see a slight drop-off of unprocessed e-file returns and those requiring special processing to now 1.8 million, but paper returns saw a slight increase to 2.2 million. So for those of you still waiting on their refunds, the IRS has not made any significant progress in the last several weeks on the processing of those tax returns. For our viewers waiting on amended returns to be processed, we did see a slight increase of the backlog of unprocessed amended returns to now 1.47 million, which is up by 40,000 returns since our last update. The IRS continues to advise amended return filers that processing times can be longer than 5 months from the time of filing. Also, it is advised you do not submit a duplicate amended return, even if you've waited over 5 months at this point, unless specifically asked to do so by the IRS. Now, if it's been more than 6 months since filing your tax returns, which is really focused at those who filed last year and are still waiting and who have not seen any update to Where's My Refund or their tax transcripts, the IRS is now advising you to refile your tax returns. This especially applies to those who filed a paper tax return. We have a number of viewers still waiting on last year's returns and should immediately refile, ideally electronically. If you're sending in a paper tax return, make sure to include documents with an actual signature and all items you submitted the first time. As additional reports coming in of those receiving the 5071C notice informing them they need a complete ID verification in order to receive that refund, is a newly reported problem linked to ID verification. Several of our viewers who received the letter and went to verify their identity online are getting this online message on the right saying the system is unable to complete the process of ID verification via the identity verification tool. So if you experience this, you're not alone in dealing with this specific issue. Because of the fact your refund is on hold until you complete this process, it is not advised for you to wait a long period of time in hopes of the system resolving it on its own. If you're encountering this, immediately contact the IRS by phone to verify your identity. However, in some extreme cases, ID verification cannot be completed online or by phone and actually must be done in person at a local IRS office. Another cause of refund delays is the IRS has still not processed employer wages, which is needed to match versus what you reported on your tax return. And in other cases, the employer has simply not submitted their tax returns to the IRS. This actually was a commonly reported problem last year, and we've heard of additional cases of it happening this year. Now, it could be the employer has filed and they simply filed your wages under the wrong Social Security number, or they just did not file, period. If you're impacted by this or your employer never sent you a W-2, you will want to contact the IRS. After prolonged cases of waiting, the IRS may have you submit a copy of your W-2 and pay stubs so that they continue processing of your tax return instead of waiting on your employer to submit. And if you've not received that W-2 from your employer, the IRS will contact them about the missing tax document in question. There are a number of scenarios where things will not be resolved on their own and will require additional action, oftentimes by the taxpayer. Let us know in the comment section below about your ongoing tax refund issue. In the meantime, we'll keep monitoring the situation for further developments, so make sure to click on the thumbs up and subscribe button below for future updates on this channel, and thanks for watching.